Hi, my name's the Reverend Kate Botley, and on today's TGI Monday, we're discussing God's calling. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you.
Welcome to a really special edition of TGI Monday. We are at a festival. I've got the festival face paint, and we have not only a live audience watching our show today, we've also got the Gogglebox Vicar, Kate Botley. I'm slightly fangirl. Now, there's lots and lots of reasons why Kate has been invited today, and she's always done a fantastic talk to lots of people. But this whole event is about vocation. It's about us discovering new gifts that God, we never thought would be gifts that were useful to God. So coming completely as we are. So we're going to discuss those themes when we get into our questions, and we've got some fantastic questions for today. But I thought we'd start by hearing a bit from Kate, seeing as you're here and making the most of that. Earlier on today, when I listened to you talk about your own story, you thought the idea of you being a vicar was just ridiculous, and your husband thought it was that funny as well.
Yeah, it's insane, the idea that I'm a vicar. I can't quite believe it. And when people ask me in shops, are you really a vicar? So being on Gogglebox, people were often saying, you're not a real one though, are you? And sometimes I turn up at funerals and weddings and stuff, ones that I'm doing, I just don't randomly turn up. They would say to me, I didn't realise you were a real one. And it's like, yeah, I've got a certificate and everything. And it's a complete surprise to me that I've ended up being ordained. In fact, I remember once, sometimes if I've had a really tough day, I'll often go for a little quiet glass of something cold on my own. So I was in a pub having a beer and doing the crossword when a group of young men over at the other side of the bar were sort of nudging each other and kind of looking over, and I got my dog collar, nudging each other and looking over. And one of them got pushed to the front, and he came over and he said to me, "Excuse me, we're on a stag do." And I went, "All right." And he went, "You're not our stripper, Grandma, are you?" To which I said, no, but I will do pretty much anything for 50 quid. So, but yeah, nothing is a greater compliment to me than when someone says you don't look like a vicar.
Yeah, I had a very similar thing in Euston Station when someone said, "Oh, I didn't really. I thought you were just on your way back from a hen party." Yeah. Well, I'm just going to kick off with a question because it gets into some of this stuff, and we're going to start talking about our own journeys a little bit more. So this question comes in from Ivy on YouTube. Thank you for your question, Ivy. She asks, did you struggle with the call to ministry, or was it something you embraced straight away? I'm going to come back to you first, Kate, because we've heard bits of your story already.
Okay. Yeah, the call to ministry was a complete surprise to me. It wasn't what I set out to do. I don't think it is for most people. And like most people, I both loved the idea of being ordained. I thought it was going to be absolutely fantastic and amazing and great and wonderful, and actually hated it all at the same time. So and that theme of a kind of conflict of emotions for me in my call to ordain ministry has continued. So most days I wake up and go, this is brilliant, this is awful, this is brilliant, this is awful, sort of thing. And I don't think that passes really. No. And I think that the minute that you start to be convinced that you're the best vicar in the world, then you should probably stop doing it.
Yep, I can definitely relate to that. How about you, Mary?
Well, I actually took quite a long time before I would sort of accept that God was calling me.
How long's long?
9-10 years.
Oh, that is quite a long time.
So I felt called because as a 21-year-old, I thought, obviously what I should do is a week of silence in Taizé. I mean, everybody when they're 19 does, don't they?
Yeah.
So I went and did my week of silence, and on the hill, God gave me this opportunity. I broke a cracker. In my mind's eye, I saw my hands breaking the wafer of the consecration and saying those words of institution. Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. Why would God want somebody like me to be a vicar? I'd seen sensible, calm, gentle, respectful men be vicars, and here was me, young, daft, and not sensible.
Or a man.
I have to remind myself of that. And I was being asked to be a vicar. No, surely he wanted me to be a teacher. Couldn't I be that? So I ran away and I did that for a bit. And eventually I gave in.
Yeah.
I went to see the Diocesan Director of Ordinance.
It's a long job title for a
It is
simple job.
for the bloke who you tell you've got a vocation to in the diocese, or woman, but it happened to be a chappie. And I sat there and I said, I think God's calling me. And I had this amazing sense of peace, greater than I'd ever had before. So
We've got some other questions coming in that we're going to get to a little bit later today about how we work that stuff out and how God might be asking us those things, and how do we know, and the process of those things. And also we're going to be talking about stuff that isn't just about ordination, because actually this whole event is about reminding us all that actually God will use all our bits. I mean, you said earlier in your talk, God uses not only the good bits, but the bits that we're bad at as well, and the bits that we think are useless. And that's something that we need to talk about a lot more. But yeah, I think there's a real pattern of resistance. I used to constantly collect vocation stories, calling stories, and I thought I was being really discreet about it actually, Paul, when I was sort of, so what led you here then? And they were all sort of going, oh, here's another one, here she goes, it's obvious. But that's not how it usually works, is it? What was it like for you?
Well, thank you, Ivy, for the question. It's a really good one, because I definitely struggled for a long time, as long as I can remember, going to church on a Sunday morning. Whenever it was Vocation Sunday and they would talk about, oh, we need to get more vocations into the church, I used to think of this poster. I don't know if, Simon, you can get in on that. And it's the Lord Kitchener recruitment poster from World War I, where he points at the viewer and says, "We want you." And it was later done by the Americans for World War II, I think. Uncle Sam in his big hat and his white beard saying, "We want you to enlist." And I thought, no, I don't want to do this, because I was born and raised Roman Catholic. And I thought, me, celibacy, what about the women? So I ignored it for years and years and years, and thought, okay, I'll do a compromise. I'll become a nurse. That's a caring job, looking after people. And I did that for 10 years, and still the idea of I want you wouldn't go away. So, being totally fed up, I went to the local priest, and his advice was, ditch the fiancé, yes, we'll sign you up. And I spent a hellish weekend with my fiancé. We were living together, thinking, this is what I got to do. I can't go to my grave, what if? And someone who I'd met through helping a very inebriated man across the road, a stranger,
Was it you?
No. This was a good Samaritan, total stranger. And me and this other guy came to this fella's aid, who just wandered out in midday out of a bookie's office out onto the street. And we thought, he's going to get creamed, he's going to end up as chunky salsa. So me and this other guy frog marched him home, let him into his house, and that was it. Anyhow, walking back with this other stranger, he said to me, why don't I give you a call? I live around here sometime, we'll go for a coffee. So I said, okay. I gave him my business card, not thinking anything of it. Anyhow, the weekend I told my fiancée, I'm signing up to the Roman Catholics, you're out the door. And she's literally in tears, packing, and I'm in tears, and it's all horrendous. My phone rings, and I'm thinking, who the hell is this? I pick it up, and it's this guy. He said, do you want to go for a coffee? Yes, please. Yeah, no, I'll be there right now.
Make it something stronger.
Yeah, anything to get out. So he said, you look kind of down. And I said, yeah, just splitting up with my fiancée, it's all a bit. And he says, why? And I said, to join the priesthood. And he said, what? You have a girlfriend and be in the priesthood. And I said, oh no, what, is this Church of England? I don't want your wishy-washy, fake religions. I'm a Roman Catholic. I've been told, we know what it is. We know what it's about. So he said, can I pray for you? Thinking he'd say, yeah, no problem. And then that night by his bed, dear God, please help Paul, whatever. He stood up in the street outside the cafe,
How
put his
embarrassing.
hand on my head. I'm thinking, dear God, let no one who knows me see.
I know, it's torture, those moments.
Now, I can't remember what he said, but I remember how it felt. It felt like the "we want you" finger had been stuck into an electrical socket. Because it was just almost like being hit by lightning. went home, told the fiancé, stay please, and then offered myself to the Church of England.
Wow.
And the poor fellas have been regretting it ever since.
The rest, as they say, is history. Well, that's another one to add to my collection of calling stories, because they actually are. I mean, presumably you come across people all the time that tell their story that's as bonkers as that one.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the wonderful thing, isn't it? Is the diversity, not only of the vocations that we're called to, but also the way that God calls different people. And it seems to me that, you know, it seems like God knows what he's doing most of the time, because only most of the time, because what happens is God calls people in the way that they'll listen. So for me, if it had been 9 to 10 years, I wouldn't have stuck with that. So I had a conversation with my vicar after a curry, and within 3 months I was at BAP, and 3 months later I was at college, because if it didn't move quickly, I'm bored now, so I get bored. So I'm not bored. I get bored so quickly that it was almost like if the momentum hadn't been there for me, it wouldn't have happened. So it's not just that God calls different people to different things, but actually calls them in different ways as well, which is just brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like there's like an ultimate power in the universe sometimes.
Yeah, it's
just
almost
sometimes
crazy, isn't it?
I know,
Almost
mad,
enough to make you believe in a miraculous God. Well, I think and that's how it was for me, and I think people, if you do collect calling stories, and I would encourage all of us to just keep doing that. And Ivy, I know that we haven't given you a tidy answer, but we do pretty much all feel there's reluctance part of that story. And actually, if you look at any of the biblical leaders, they would pretty much all say, don't be stupid, God, we can't do that. So that's probably a good characteristic of a calling as well.
But it's also okay to be happy about it.
Yeah.
So you know, lots of people go do this whole sort of like being dragged into ordination or being dragged into whatever vocation they're into. The thing I'm doing at the moment, the media stuff I'm doing, I am having the best time with. I'm having the most fun I've had with my clothes on in a long time. Do you know what I'm saying? I am just having the best time. It's an absolute blast. Of course there are bits that are tough. Of course there are bits that are difficult. But it's okay to enjoy it as well. It's okay if God calls you into something that you love doing. So, you know, don't just think, oh, well, it's not difficult, so it must not be godly.
Absolutely,
you know, we're not beating ourselves with sticks here. We're much more John 10:10 than anything else, aren't we?
No, we're not. Well, Ivy, that's a fab way to end this episode with your fantastic question. Be yourself. Be open to what God is doing in and around you. Listen to people, listen to God, and even if you don't go away for a week in Taizé, you can trust that if you're open to God, God will do usually unexpected and extraordinary things.
Thanks for watching, folks. Remember to like, tweet, share, comment, subscribe. Do everything that makes us famous, because my name is Kate Bockley.
Oh, so this is just like a promo thing?
Yeah,
All right, okay,
this is the
Wait a
intro,
second,
free
Kate
title.
Bockley. Haven't you watched the show?
Of course she has. Of course she has.
And when did you last watch Songs of Praise? Just saying.